All right, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Glenn KIRSCHNER. Glenn, great to have you with us. You were a federal prosecutor for 30 years. What's your take on these videos we've seen of what happened to Officer Sicknick? Do they prove that Cater and Tanios assaulted Officer Sicknick?
You know, Allison, they clearly prove an assault, perhaps even an assault with a dangerous weapon. However, in order to make out homicide charges, murder charges, or manslaughter charges, you need to prove that that assault was the cause of death. And the cause of death in the law of the District of Columbia involves your conduct being a substantial factor in bringing about the death. So remember, some of the reporting early on involved the suggestion that Officer Sicknick was beaten with a fire extinguisher. Well, that would inflict what we call blunt force trauma injuries. And the question is, did that contribute to his death? Was it the bear spray? Was it a chemical agent that contributed to his death? Or did he go home the next day and, although he had received a number of injuries when he was attacked at the Capitol, did he have some sort of a heart incident that caused his death? You know, these are very difficult decisions that have to be made by the medical examiner. Part of the reason, Allison, I think we're waiting so long for the results is during the autopsy, when there is a potential poisoning or chemical agent involved, what they do is they take tissue samples, organ samples, and bodily fluid samples. Those are then sent out for toxicological tests to try to determine exactly what Officer Sicknick's cause of death was. So I think that is why it's taking so long, in part, for the medical examiner to rule the cause of death in this case.
Former acting U.S. Attorney Michael SHERWIN spoke about this case, specifically Officer Sicknick, on 60 Minutes this week. Here he is, and I want to talk to you about this on the other side.
The medical examiner has not yet determined how Officer Sicknick died. If the medical examiner determines that his death was directly related to the bear spray, would you imagine murder charges at that point?
If evidence directly relates that chemical to his death, yeah, we have causation, we have a link. Yes, in that scenario, correct. That's a murder case.
So, Glenn, we already talked about what it might take to change this into a murder case here, but I want to ask you about this interview because the Justice Department is now investigating Sherman. Some former prosecutors say that it was inappropriate for him to discuss these cases because they're ongoing, specifically when he talked about how some evidence is trending towards sedition. What do you make of his interview? Was it the right thing to do?
No, it was the absolute wrong thing to do, Allison. There's a bedrock principle and a rule by which we all have to abide as federal prosecutors. We do not comment on ongoing pending investigations because, frankly, defendants are entitled to a fair trial. So we don't want to try their cases in the public square. We want to try them in a court of law. And so Michael SHERWIN plainly violated the Department of Justice guidelines. And we know that because we had a prosecutor go into court yesterday in one of the Proud Boy cases, an AUSA by the name of John Crabb, and tell Judge Mehta that this was not an approved statement by the Department of Justice. Why Michael SHERWIN went rogue in one of the most consequential criminal investigations of our time is anybody's guess, but he's already been referred to the Office of Professional Responsibility at the Department of Justice, which investigates allegations of prosecutor misconduct. And frankly, I think the next thing we're going to see is he'll be referred to his own state bar, wherever he's admitted to practice law, for a similar investigation and possible sanctions. This was a horrific move by Michael SHERWIN.
An investigation on top of an investigation on top of an investigation. Glenn, always great to have you on to talk about all of these complex layers within our legal system. We really appreciate you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.